Coming to you from beautiful Funk Studios in Fargo, North Dakota, deep within the depths of the supercharger Deadzone, this is the Tesla News and Topics podcast for Friday, September 7th, 2018.
I think we've got quite a lot of good news to talk about, and look forward to sharing that with you.
Hi, welcome back, everyone. My name is Jeff. Welcome back to the show. We got a number of things to go through. I'm going to try to keep it very short. I got a very busy day and lots of things to do, and I was working late last night, so I didn't have too much time to get things ready. Nonetheless, I got a few news topics to go over, but the first thing I wanted to cover was I had kind of an interesting week. As you know, I ordered a Model 3 and announced that at the show last week, and when we get to the topic, I'll kind of go over what's transpired so far related to that. But I did have some sort of interesting experiences for what I would refer to as from non-Tesla people. One of them being my mother, who is 74 now, and she really isn't into cars at all. My father, who's now 81, he has actually driven in a Tesla when we did a test drive when I went out to visit them in Rockland, California. We did a test drive, and my dad came along and sat in the back while I was driving, and we had a few other family members with. So first of all, when we did that test drive, that was probably about a year ago or so. I think it was around the time of his 80th birthday party, and he sat in the back, and his question to the Tesla person that was riding with us was, how many miles per gallon does this car get? Which and she answered it really well. It's hard to explain that it doesn't use gas; it just has batteries. But there is a calculation for miles per gallon equivalent, which is, I think, it comes in around 90 or so. But that was his first experience with the car. But what happened was my mother and my father apparently went out to dinner, and my mother sent me this text kind of out of the blue. And she knows that I'm into Tesla and all that stuff. So she said, Friday evening, went to dinner with a guy who drove us in a Tesla S with all the bells and whistles. I'm sold if I could afford it. He says he got a power boost just added free that adds mileage, and he can go further on a charge. And then all caps, wow. So I was actually very shocked. I mean, I'm not sure if it was just that the car was really cool and she liked it, or if she's just trying to encourage me, perhaps. But I thought that was an interesting reaction from someone that's not a Tesla person. I think, as you know from listening to the show, there have been a lot of things going on related to Tesla. There's been a lot of drama related to Tesla, a lot of controversy, in particularly lately focused around Elon Musk. But for someone who doesn't know any of that, who doesn't pay attention to any of that, and they just see the car, they're blown away. And so I think, and this is a non-car person, so you're let's just call it your average person, very, very impressed. And my mother's never said anything about a car that I can recall in her entire life. The second thing that I had that was interesting, this isn't really like a non-Tesla person. This is someone who is interested in Tesla. With someone I work with, and I've had conversations with him on and off over the last year or so about this, because we're both Model 3 reservation holders. Now, he is at this point holding out. I did speak with him briefly. I ran into him in the hallway, and we were talking about it, and I said, look, have you ordered your Model 3? What are you doing? And I kind of let him know that the federal tax credit for the $7,500 in the U.S. will expire if you don't, or it will cut in half rather, if you don't receive your car by the end of the calendar year. And he was not aware of that, but he also didn't seem concerned about it. His response was I'll try to quote it as close as I can. He said, I don't know. I think Elon Musk's kind of gone crazy lately, and I'm not sure that he's stable. I think I'm going to wait. And so, this is someone who does follow Tesla a little bit, but is essentially getting, most of the headlines. And really, that's what's dominated the headlines lately. So for someone who's not paying very close attention, but is still interested, that's certainly the impression that he had, is that right now, Elon is unstable and unhinged, and it may not be safe to buy a Tesla, in that the company may not, the implication is that the company may not be around to support the car if you do order it. As you can tell by the music, it is time for our Supercharger Deadzone update. Unfortunately, nothing's really changed here. Looking at August 2018, I am getting my information courtesy of supercharge.info. The Supercharger location is still at permit status in Fargo, North Dakota, now looking at 160 days since permit. Pembina, North Dakota, also 160 days at permit status. Dickinson, North Dakota, far to the west, permit status 157 days. And to the southeast of Minnesota, Alexandria, Minnesota, now at permit status at 167 days. So I'm still not very optimistic that this is going to happen by the end of the calendar year. I've looked at the Tesla forums as well, and I think that's the general sentiment. There have been a lot of people trying to research this and contact the businesses and locations where these are going to be, and are just really not getting any answers. In fact, I believe that there's some pretty firm evidence that the Supercharger location in Alexandria on Interstate 94, which is the farthest to the east of this string that begins in Minnesota and then will start to go east-west across North Dakota, that location is what's holding it up, that there's some issue, and that for some reason Tesla wanted to do the I-94 stretch kind of all at once they start, and then finish them all. So very unlikely that things are going to get moving. It's going to get real cold here. It's going to get basically impossible to dig a foundation or do construction. And if it doesn't get started before then we're looking at, early spring before they'll be able to do that sort of thing and get into the ground. So I'll keep you updated, but so far no progress at this point. The next item in the news is a little bit unbelievable, and perhaps it kind of ties into what my friend at work was talking about related to Elon Musk. There's an article, this is from CNBC, and the link to the article and all the articles are going to be in the show notes on your podcasting app if you want to check them out. But Elon Musk went back and readdressed for a third time the British cave diver guy and the pedo comment. So I'll give you a little bit of background. Originally, I guess it was probably now a month or so ago, around the time of the Thailand cave rescue. After that was all done, this diver basically took a shot at Elon's efforts, saying that he was trying to steal the spotlight and that his little mini sub that the team had come up with was never going to work, and it was essentially a stupid idea. And then Elon kind of got mad and he ended up calling him a pedo guy because he was in Thailand, implying he's a pedophile. Then that caused some problems. I think people were pretty upset about it. Eventually, he came out and he did apologize. He tweeted that he was sorry. And then he, unfortunately, last week's show, we talked about it as well. He followed up amazingly saying, I can't believe, why do you think this guy hasn't sued me yet? He must be I'm paraphrasing, he must be a pedophile because it's true. If it wasn't true, he would have already sued me by now. So then, of course, he has a lawyer, and this guy announces that he is in fact suing Elon Musk. And then the news from this week is that there was a third a news item related to the same story that just needs to go away. In any case, CNBC was reporting, and apparently this was an email that Elon had sent to BuzzFeed, which, from what I can read, he was under the impression that this was off the record. BuzzFeed said, no, it wasn't off the record, and they published it. But basically, he just went even further. He called the guy a child rapist in an email, and he said that he moved there and he was looking basically for an underage bride, and that's why he's living in Thailand. Again, the mind boggles as to why you would go through this. Some of the other podcasters that I listen to and I really enjoy, in particular, Rob Maurer at Tesla Daily addressed this. I believe it was in the show yesterday. Just incredibly disappointing. I'm going to try to either bring this idea back as the topic for next week's show, or perhaps we'll do it as a special edition. I just think there's a lot to unpack here related to this sort of baffling behavior. And he actually, Elon added even a little bit more. Just in the news today, he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, which is about 2 hours of an interview, and I've listened to only about the first 15 to 20 minutes at this point. Again, referencing Rob Maurer from Tesla Daily podcast, he did mention that it's probably not a good idea for him to do this. The best thing that could happen is it's kind of boring, but that's 2 hours of off-the-cuff opportunities for Elon to say something, even that's completely innocent. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying it, but if it could be lifted out of context, it could be damaging. So it gives, the Tesla short community, it gives these people that are after Tesla, the FUDsters, the people that spread the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, it gives them just 2 hours to dig through, to just try to find ammunition. But they didn't really apparently need to do that, because the title this morning in the article was that Elon Musk was basically smoking marijuana on the podcast with Joe Rogan. And that's the headline. So nothing about Tesla's products, nothing about what's going on, nothing in the headline about SpaceX or Tesla or the Model 3 or production or software updates or autonomous driving or all of the things that they should be talking about. And the headline was, he's smoking pot with Joe Rogan. So I'll come back to this. I am going to try to listen to it, and it's a very long show. I don't really listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, and it's on YouTube if you want to check it out for yourself. Just type in Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, and you'll find it. So moving on to some more positive news, and there were a couple of articles that referenced that Tesla sales, particularly Model 3 sales, are really doing well right now. CNBC also reported a few days ago that Tesla shares had a nice bounce. There was a favorable sales report that showed the Model 3 just doing extremely well, and the Elon retweeted that, and shares bumped slightly. Also, autoblog.com, I picked up an article that just went out, I believe it was yesterday, and basically just outlines how the Model 3 is now outselling BMW's entire lineup of passenger vehicles. Now, that's critical that it's passenger vehicles, because that excludes SUVs. But the Model 3 is outselling all of BMW's passenger sedans, non-SUV vehicles, which is amazing. In fact, I think there was another article, I don't have the link for it now, that said that the Model 3, I think, was the top-selling vehicle. It might have been top-selling passenger vehicle of any kind for the month of August. Now, that's based on estimates. I think it's EV Weekly or EV Insider that is tracking that data as well. But that's great news. And then the last news item I wanted to touch on, it's just a minor thing. I'm not sure why this would be helpful, but Teslarati is reporting that a Tesla user tweeted at Elon asking for a mode where the screen sort of goes to minimal information at a certain point. And then Elon said yes, that they're going to introduce it, and he referred to it as fade mode, where the screen, I guess, just kind of darkens out and you're left with kind of speedometer and maybe the clock. That doesn't sound like there's much more there. I assume that, like, if you're driving at night, and you know how when the screen, you can kind of dim the screen and the binnacle and stuff like that in the car, because it gets kind of distracting after a while when you're just driving and it's steady highway driving and you don't really need to see all that stuff. So it sounds like Tesla is going to add that feature at some point in version 9 of the software. All right, and before we move on to today's topic, I did want to put in a quick plug. We do have a Patreon site, which is patreon.com/teslanewstopics. If you choose to or feel inclined, or you feel like you're getting value from the show, you can support financially. Anything from $1 to $2 or $5 or more. And I do have a special a gift. I've got the two folks that are supporting me on Patreon, Greg and William Hughes III, I guess goes by Trey. So Trey, if you prefer that, I know I didn't use your name that way last time, but anyway, to Greg and Trey, I will have a little small gift heading your way. And so, Trey, I may reach out to you just for a mailing address as well. But we are on Patreon, and I certainly would appreciate it. Also, I do have a couple of referral codes. I did want to share Patrick's referral code, which is ts.la/Patrick7819. Once again, that is ts.la/Patrick7819. And so that'll give you one option. I do have a referral code of my own now that I am in line and have actually made my order. And so let me share that with you as well. And that referral code is ts.la/Jeff62003. And that's ts.la/Jeff62003. You can use either one if you want to, or if you're going to buy 2 Teslas, maybe you can use Patrick's for one and you can use mine for the other one. All right, so let's move on to the topic. I have a lot. I originally had planned to do kind of a breakdown of an article that came from hbr.org called The Curse of the Superstar CEO. Fairly long article, and I really have not had time. I've had a crazy busy week at work, and I just have not had time to go through it and really unpack it. And it certainly will kind of roll into what will likely be a special edition of the show where I've kind of want to go through some of the similarities related to Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and try to look at the arc of the career of Steve Jobs and then compare that to the arc so far of the career of Elon Musk and see, what similarities there are, what might we learn, what might be coming in Elon's future. Is there anything that we can learn from what happened to Steve Jobs that might be in Elon's future? But in any case, what I decided to do is I'm just going to kind of go through again an update with where we are at my process for ordering the Model 3. So I did go through the timeline last time. I placed my order in July, and I did receive confirmation via email relatively quickly. So the first thing I got was an email that just said, thanks for your order. And then it referred me back to do some more paperwork. And unfortunately, when I put the order in, I must have missed something. I was in apparently the wrong section where by the time I was done configuring the thing and put it in, and then it said, you have elected to pay in cash and not finance. I think the options are finance with Tesla, get your own financing, or pay in cash. And somehow it just said pay in cash, but I couldn't figure out how to go back in and change that. So I did email Tesla basically as soon as I realized that, pretty much the same day, probably within a half an hour of receiving the confirmation email that saw that. I went in and tried to figure out how to fix it, and then I sent them an email. And I never heard back. Wasn't really worried about it. I did call the Tesla line as well, and I got that message that says, we're experiencing an unusually high call volume. Your wait time will be longer than an hour. So I didn't wait an hour. I just basically hung up, and then I sent the email right after that. So since then, I've received a couple of other emails, and then there was an email that basically said, prepare for your Model 3 delivery. And it was a list of things that you had to kind of work through. It said delivery location, action required, confirm your delivery location, driver's license, action required, upload your driver's license, vehicle insurance, upload your proof of insurance, registration, payment method, confirm whether you will pay with cash, loan, or lease, and whether or not you'll be doing a trade-in. So I went in and I just could not figure out how to get to that section to fix those things. And then at some point after that, I think it was probably several days where the Tesla app actually started working. And I've had the Tesla app on my phone for a while now. And then every now and then I will just look at it just to see if they've changed anything where there's like a splash page for non-owners or something. But up until, recently, it basically wouldn't do anything. It would just say there are no products associated with your account, and it would kick you right back out. And then, sometime after that email, after ordering, the app started working. Still doesn't say that, and it just says Model 3 on the top. I've got the the videos, and it kind of goes through and it gives you the list of, and then you can click on each video, how to get in the car, how does the key card work, how does the transmission work, how do the doors work, all that kind of stuff. So that's interesting. And then at some point after that, the loot box appeared, which is that little like glowing treasure chest up in the corner of the app. And then once I clicked into that, then it showed me that I had a referral code, which I thought was odd. Those of you who may already have a Tesla may know this already, but I just assumed you would not get your referral code until delivery of your vehicle. But I got a referral code, it was shortly after they opened the app to me. And I shared that with you earlier. So I thought that was interesting. The where I'm at right now, basically, is I'm still waiting. There's been essentially nothing, no communication back. I know it's still early, but my delivery window started a few days ago. So I'm in this September, October, November delivery window. And so part of me is thinking, it could be literally like any day now. They might call me like tomorrow and say, we can have your car there in a week. And, I need to get ready and I need to check my schedule and I need to get make sure that I have all the details and finances and everything buttoned down. But then the other part of me is like, this could be November. There could be 2 feet of snow or more on the ground by the time this thing shows up. I'd really obviously like to get it as soon as possible so I can kind of enjoy the car before the roads get too nasty. But I don't know where that's at. I'm going to try to call them again today. I did try to call the other day, and this time they said that my expected wait time was about 15 minutes. But I actually did not have 15 minutes to wait. I had only about 5 to 10 minutes and just decided to hang up and try again later. Interestingly, so kind of the funny story is, I had debated whether or not I would keep this as a surprise for my kids and ultimately decided to just go ahead and tell them. So we went out to lunch the day after I sort of decided this, and all the kids were there. My daughter, who's basically Tesla crazy, we were talking about it. And we're just sitting there. We happened to go to Taco Bell because it was my youngest son's birthday, and that's where he wanted to go for lunch. So we were at Taco Bell, and I said to Jules, and she starts asking me, my wife, all these questions about the car. She's like, "Have you made up your mind yet? What are you going to do? You should just go ahead and do it." And I said, what if I told you I already made up my mind?" And she says, "I'd tell you you're lying." And I said, "Well, no, I made up my mind. I already ordered it." And then she's looking at me, and I'm trying to keep a straight face to kind of make her think that maybe I am still messing around with her. And then I said, "No, I ordered it." And she looked at my wife, and my wife kind of had the same straight face, and she didn't seem surprised. And then my daughter just sort of realized that it was real. And she actually got really excited at Taco Bell. She got kind of worked up. And she actually started crying a little bit. And she was like laughing at herself and crying. She's excited and she's saying, "Oh, I'm crying. Why am I crying?" But she was pretty excited, so I'm glad I told her. I thought that was fun. So now every day, instead of asking me, "Did you order it? When are you going to make up your mind?" She's like, "Did they call you? Text me at school when they call you. Did they call you yet?" So now it's just different. I obviously don't mind. I think it's kind of fun. The other kids, and when I took them to school this morning, I drove them in my Explorer, and they were like, my youngest son was singing, "There's going to be a Tesla." So he's already thinking that, the next time he gets in the car, maybe next week, maybe next month, instead of getting into Dad's Explorer, he'll be getting into Dad's Tesla, and I'll drive him to school in that. So fun so far. I'll keep you posted, and we'll kind of try to wrap things up for this week's episode. So thank you, as always, for listening. If you want to reach out to the show, I'd appreciate it on email at teslanewstopics@gmail.com. You can message me or follow me on Twitter at teslanewstopics. Music for the show is provided by Melodious Thunk. Once again, we are on Patreon, and that's patreon.com/teslanewstopics. Any support would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for listening, and I will talk to you next week.